the audience, down the stairs, out the door onto the town green. The other is out the door to the right of the audience, down the stairs, and out into the parking lot. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As our secretary is out tonight, Mr. Vice Chair, will you take over secretary duty and read the roll call?
Sure. Andrew Urbanowitz.
Here.
Mary Ann Turner, absent. Charles Masterbirdy. Richard Stroini. Christine DeBoni.
Yes.
And Dana Palmer. Go.
Okay. Do I have a motion to move the executive session?
I will make a motion to move executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. So I will be leaving the room, and the audience will leave the room, and we'll be in executive session.
Unless you want to go downstairs.
Somebody's down there already. So I think it's better if we leave.
Board of Appeals is back from executive session. No votes were taken during executive session. I will continue this part as Commissioner Urbanowitz has recused himself for this component. I am going to ask for a motion to vote on the stipulated agreement as proposed based on the Raffia Farms, Inc. versus DBA 110 Raffia Road, docket number LND-HHD-CV23-617-2084S.
Second.
You making a motion?
Oh, making a motion to.
Second.
Yeah.
We have a, okay. Any discussion on it? All right, I will do a roll call on that. I'll modify this. Charlie Masterbirdy,
Yes. That's in favor of.
in favor of. Christine DeBoni,
Yes.
Dana Palmer,
Yes.
and Richard Stroini, yes. That's 4 in favor, none against.
And for the record, Andrew Urbanowitz, chairman, abstains due to a conflict of interest.
Okay. Rick, anything else you need from that, or are we good on that one? No. Okay. And for the record, the actual stipulated agreement will be entered into our minutes for public record. And be available as of tomorrow. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back to you.
All right. Moving on to new business. Mr. Acting Secretary, please read the legal notice.
The Enfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a regular meeting on Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following applications. ZBA number 2024-12-20 for 4 Ganny Terrace, appeal of ZEO notice of violation of sections 3.30.9, 4.20, and 10.10.1. Douglas Valley, applicant owner, map 64, lot 58, R33 zone.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Douglas Valley. I live at 4 Ganny Terrace, Enfield, Connecticut. I also reside there. I reside and own the home.
Okay. If you want to tell us, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm appealing notice of violation documented under ZBA 2024-12-20. In my appeal that I submitted, I did develop a 3-page response, which I would like to go through that attachment to address the 3 potential violations that I see that were indicated in the notice of violation. Just before we start, just a brief.
Just make sure you got lights on.
Just-
It should be on.
It was on.
You have to point the mic toward you.
Oh, point it towards me. Sorry. Okay. Are we good?
We're good. Yep, continue.
Okay, so I came 1 year out of college, married in 1978, moved into Enfield. To 4 Ganny Terrace, so I thought would be my starter home, but I did some hunting of over 40 houses and chose that house intentionally because it was, at the time, lots were about 1/3 of an acre or less for most time. This one was 0.51 acres and had an unusually wide lot of 250 feet. I was already into cars and things of that sort, and actually came there with just a Mustang and a car trailer being towed with a Mustang, which wasn't a good idea, but I didn't own a truck, nor could I afford a truck at the time. But that's how early my hobby and my passion for motor vehicles was. I would like to go through these one at a time, I think would be the best way, and we can refer to the notes. Everybody has the attachments?
Do we?
Okay, so the first one was,
I don't think so. We have your packet, Rick.
Should be a response.
I see it. Right
Response
here?
to zoning.
No, that's vintage. That's from the packet.
No, I didn't have that one.
No.
oh,
All right, let me, make us these copies. Sounds okay.
Sure, yeah, we can take a brief recess. We can
so-
follow along. We now have all your handouts.
Just a question, so nobody's had a chance to review this ahead of time then? No. Okay. So I propose the best way to handle this is for me to read just through till item 1, then discuss item 1 a bit, then item 2 and item 3, because they're all, and then be the best way, I think. But, so what I've done is I correctly indicated, and Rick can let me know if I didn't do a good job at that, but the way it's worded, it comes up with 3 semi-infractions, 3 infractions within it. The recreational vehicle is stored closer to the front property line than the front wall of the residence. Number 2, more than one recreational vehicle/trailer is being stored in the property. And number 3, no recreational vehicle can be stored on the east side yard, as this yard is also required to allow front yard requirements, to follow front yard requirements, as this is a corner lot. So my response to item 1 is, I agree with the first one, and it needs to be corrected. Several efforts were taken. This is no excuse. It doesn't eliminate me from having to do something about this. This happened in 1999, this particular rig, not the ones in the past. I've had them since 1986. But I had this one in 1999, and COVID came. In fact, I came home from Arizona with a motorhome as rest areas were closing, trying to get my way home with everybody panicking over COVID. But they were finally, I made several efforts, and they were finally coming to fruition. You couldn't get hardly anybody to do anything for you. They were so busy catching up with projects during that period of time. Finally had somebody lined up, and then I went in to see if I could obtain a permit to make my wall wider there, where to park, so that I could park them parallel instead of one behind the other, to solve how close the motorhome was to the road. And then 2 days later, I was served this notice of violation. I agree that it shouldn't be parked there. I personally don't want it parked out that close to the road. Having said that, I'm not sure why it's a requirement. I don't have a problem with it being a requirement, and we'll honor it. I don't see where it has anything to do with health, safety, morals, or general welfare, which is what we're supposed to be doing with zoning regulations. If I understood that correctly, maybe I'd know how, or if all of us understood that correctly, I'd know how to respond. But it is a rule, and I intend to want to comply. My issue with complying is needing a space in order to be able to park them side by side, which hopefully will get resolved after we go through this whole thing. So that's all I have on that one. My only other comment to that is there's 2 subjects to these things, and I won't bring this up every time because I think it applies to all of them, but the purpose and authority for these zoning rules are health, safety, morals, and general welfare. There's a ton of sub-ones under here, but they're all subcategories of one of those 4. They're not new ones. They're health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And then there's a paragraph of interpretation, which says we should try and minimize requirements to the extent possible of accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And even seems to make noticing something to do with previous issues, of how they were. And one of the points I want to point out, I've been here since 1978. In the 1975 zoning rules up till 2002, there was no requirement on recreational vehicles, which is a majority of the time I had these vehicles there, these types of vehicles there, I should say. Certainly, there must be some consideration for that as well, but we'll get into that. We can go on to the second item unless somebody has questions about that one, because I'm conceding it, so. Okay, item 2. More than one recreational vehicle trailer is being stored on the property. I disagree. I have only one motorhome on the property that's a recreational vehicle. The other trailer is not a recreational trailer. It's a car trailer, or it could be one of many trailers: utility trailer, snowmobile trailer, plane trailer, ATV trailer, etc. It's not a recreational trailer, and there's a definition in the zoning rules. I think I described that here. So let me read it first. That's what we said. I disagree this violation exists. The second unit is a car trailer and does not meet the definition of a recreational vehicle or trailer. I believe the reference zoning regulations sections in the notice of violation suffice on their own as worded. However, page 19, definition number 25, also defines a recreational vehicle as primarily designed, okay? So mine isn't even any design for accommodating, but it says primarily designed to be used as temporary living accommodations for travel, camping, and recreational purposes. The car trailer does not have any living accommodations such as sleeping, food preparation, and toilet facilities. It strictly stores cars and related equipment for the car. I have pictures that I can hand to you if somebody would like further proof of that, of the inside and the outside. Would you like?
It's your presentation. If you think they're necessary, hand them in.
I'm supposed to give you a copy of everything I do, Rick. Kind of have to hold it that way. I can explain what you're looking at if it's difficult. I use the flash and oh, I need one more, sorry.
Okay, I can share with
I
you.
get it.
Nope, mine's stapled upside down. Okay, I was following the staple, but yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so the pictures on the left are the lower floor. Unfortunately, it's got half of my race car in it, but in parts of body panels. But it's all a work area. It has an air compressor in it. It has a welder. It has 5 cabinets. It stores almost enough parts to make another car when you go racing on the weekend. When a part breaks, you know, I grab a part from it. Upstairs is where the additional parts are stored in the front. And then the car itself actually is elevated in the, it's 48 inches tall, just barely fits a very low profile car. And then on the outside, you can see there's no windows, there's no accommodating for anything having to do with living in it. I also did include, and I didn't even mention this yet, but I included one picture to show because I think what might happen in these is there's only one style trailer plate. Well, there's 2 styles. There's commercial, and then it's Camp TR. That's what it says on it. Whether you have a true camping trailer, a utility trailer, car trailer, boat trailer, you name it, there's only one plate that's issued in Connecticut for that. So I don't know if that's where it might have come around, that this might not be a car trailer or something more, but it's not a camping trailer at all. So in my opinion, it doesn't, you know, it's not, I'm not in violation of having a second recreational vehicle. Any questions? None? Okay, item 3 is a longer one. So I disagree with the intent or interpretation of this zoning requirement as being violated. There's a lot to this, but it says a reference to the front wall of the residence is used in lieu of the required front yard setback of 35 feet to make this requirement more flexible to the owner, as many of the houses within this time period were built closer than 35 feet to the front property line. Otherwise, when you look at every other rule, it always talks about your setback. That's what it calls it. That's what you got to be. And the only reason I can think they said that, and I think it makes sense, is I'm a perfect example. My house is only 33 feet away from the front. Okay, but it was built as a non-conforming lot back then. It's the way it was built. So the law allows me to be 2 feet closer than if they'd said 35 feet. And having written a lot of procedures in my past, there's always a litmus test on this stuff to see what makes sense and see if the interpretation here has to follow exactly where the front wall of the residence is. If you had a 1 acre lot in this town, or even the 3/4 lot, which is the minimum required, it was 120 feet wide, sounds like a reasonable amount. The average lot next to me is only 85 feet wide. You could have a lot, it would be 363 feet deep to be a 1 acre lot. If you gave yourself a nice big 95-foot rear lot and wanted a lot of privacy that's what I would do with it. I'd want a lot of privacy from the road. You'd have 240 feet before you came to the front wall of your residence. Surely the town of Enfield doesn't care if somebody stores their car trailer somewhere in that huge piece of property in the front there. I don't think that was ever the intent. I don't think it's anything to do with health, safety, moral, or general welfare. just to, get a gut feel for this. This is kind of to scale. I did do that. Now, just for a matter of interest, you'll see there's two little lines on the left vertical line there. If you drew those lines across and just took those out of the picture, that's what the minimum lot in Enfield would be. And even in that case, you would still have, I might have handed that one away. I don't know if I did. I wrote what the dimensions are on the end there. No, here they are. You would still have, minus 60, you'd still have 100 feet in the front, which surely you're not going to have to be required to try and put that motor home behind over here. What value is it doing with respect to health, safety, and everything else like that? So I think, and there's another reason, and it's the second thing that I think I put in here. The wording in this is very interesting. The use of residence is not used anywhere in the zoning laws except in stuff like single-family residence versus two-family residence, things like that. Everything talking about setbacks and space always refers to a building or structure, but the closest thing that comes to a residence is a building. So I think the choice of that word also is being used to indicate that although a corner lot can have two front yards, because that's what this whole item 3 is about. No recreational vehicle shall be stored on the east side of, well, it didn't actually say it that way. If we read what it said, it says, the property is a corner lot which has two front yards, Ganny Terrace and Shaker Road, with the vehicle stored in the front yard at the time of the violation. I don't think it was ever the intent of this special provision for RVs only, not sure why it exists, but it exists. I agree to that, was ever to apply the corner lot to the other than for setback, okay? I don't think it has to sit behind the house, okay? And it's pretty much impossible for mine because you'd be on the front yard of one, and I only have 10 feet, 15 feet of a backyard, so it wouldn't be possible to do that. So my point is, why did they choose the word residence? Out of all the places they're very, very consistent everywhere in the zoning laws of saying building, in referring to the building. There's so many other ways this could have been worded if they had wanted you to actually apply this to meaning it's got to be behind, at or behind the wall. So my point is, and I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, you should, have to meet the setback requirements. It's no longer a side yard, so it's no longer 10 feet for a non-conforming lot. But if it's 35 feet away, it's more than enough away to be of any consequence in the front. I'm not even sure it needs that, but even if I concede that, in my particular situation, mine is 41 feet at its tightest point. If you look at the plot plan on the last page there, the handout that Rick gave you, you can see it's a triangular shape cutting in, and so it's depends on where you measure the line, but even with the front of the house is 52 feet away, and even with the back point is 41 feet away. So my feeling is, jumped around here getting through this, but. So I think the intent was to allow the owner to store his recreational vehicle closer to the front property line than the required 35 setback when the house front wall is closer, is why it was worded the way there. And then then I go on to explain what I just mentioned to you now, the 41 to 52 foot setback. And the development of the use of the side recreational storage vehicle occurred when no restrictions or storage required vehicles, existed for recreational vehicles and recreational trailers. That's the way it was all the way up till 2002. So that covered every one of mine except my current one. So I've used it continuously during that period of time. But that would only be needed if you're not accepting the other cases, But my point is, I think I meet it that way as well. And that's what A through I summarized. I bought it in '78. In the natural progression of my hobby, I started using recreational style trailers versus an open car trailer like I originally had when I was poor. In '86, The zoning requirements were in place from 75 till 2002 with that. These zoning regulations do not mention or single out any special restriction for quantity or front yard setbacks for recreational vehicles and recreational trailers. And from 86 till today, I've stored a recreational vehicle in that manner for 38 years. I'm paraphrasing here as I'm going through here to save you a little bit of time. And up until 2020, I've been storing them properly set back from the front house. And then in 2020, I actually bought it in December 26, 1999, and registered it in January of 2020 is when I bought the latest motorhome and car trailer. And then I had a problem because that side yard is, to make it level instead of like this, it has a 16-inch cement wall, not a cement wall, but a patio block wall. I think you can see it in the pictures in the back of the town's zoning regulations. And so it wasn't wide enough to put them side by side. And so when I came to try and put that wall out, I found out I can't put a wall up for some reason. So then I've come up with the idea that I could just, get the properly compacted dirt that can handle a load like that, make it wider, and just slope it. And then I did get an agreement from traffic control and from, who's the other guy that's involved? Engineering. And they said that that was okay to do with respect to their requirements, not necessarily with respect to his. And that was my plan, was to do that. But then I got served this notification, and here we are. The next one was unusual property shape. It's a larger than average lot for that age. It's much wider. The average lot is 100 feet. Mine was, 251 feet wide. There were no zoning laws of any significance restricting side recreational vehicles storage. But it does result in a narrow backyard, so if you can't store it in the front and you call this a front, you can't store it in the front just because it's the front. Then it only leaves me my other yard, which would be a very dangerous situation. It's the only place my grandkids can play Frisbee and soccer and things of that sort. I have two side yards that are both big. One's next to the road and one isn't. I meet the setback requirements. I'm not sure what the problem is. I don't want to have my kids playing soccer and the soccer ball going out there causing accidents. I think they're much safer utilizing this as I think the zoning rules allow. So there was a picture on the back that tried to show it's very hard and dark, but I didn't want to use my own drawing because I figured this is to scale, so I'd use it here. The perpendicular measurements that show the 41 feet and the 52.5 feet that I'm away to be able to store that recreational vehicle. Any questions?
Not yet.
What do we think, commissioners? Would you like me to have staff comment while you guys think of questions? All right, staff, Rick.
Okay, so the complaint came in through the department head, and in checking it, I obviously photographed the vehicles several times, which you can see in the file that was given to you. The larger of the two vehicles extends out past the front property line. This is a corner lot, so there are two front yards. There's one on Shaker Road, and there's one on Gainey Terrace. And the setbacks really do not play a role in this. The setbacks, when it comes to the parking of these types of vehicles, it's where they have to be parked behind the rear line of the home or behind the front line of the home. And the other section that applies to this besides that portion of where recreational vehicles have to be parked is section 10.10.1, general requirements, section G. I believe you were given a copy of that. Not more than one camping-type vehicle and/or boat may be parked on any lot in HR 33, R33, R44, or R88 zone. Such vehicles shall be parked or stored only in a garage or on a paved surface located no closer to the front property line than the front wall of the residence. Such paved area shall not be located within any required side yard or 5 feet from the rear property line. So there's two situations or two regulations that apply to this. And as I said, the setbacks really don't play any role in this, not in this matter with the parking of recreational vehicles. The other issue is that vehicle, the white box trailer, under Connecticut state statutes, a definition of a recreational vehicle includes the camper, a camp trailer, or motorhome classes of vehicles. That's through the state itself. So it does include camper trailers.
Camper trailer.
And I believe that's what's registered, the white one is registered as. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
but if it's a camper, it has to have living accommodations. Just as
So-
your definition says in the zoning rules.
The regulations of the state statutes, number 80, describe a recreational vehicle under the state statute as, or includes, the camper, a camp trailer, and motorhome classes of vehicles. The regulations, our regulations, are specific on how and where a commercial vehicle or camper-type vehicle is to be parked, and that's behind the front line of the home. The problem with this property, obviously, is because it's a corner lot and there's two fronts. I actually checked the property today, and referring back to 10.10.1, the property owner also has two boats and trailers on the property, besides this large camper that extends onto the, or through the front property line towards Gainey Terrace, and the other box trailer parked behind it. So both of those vehicles are in the front yard, front of the home on Shaker Road side, and one of them, the longer, bigger of the two, extends out onto the frontage of Gainey Terrace, putting both of those trailers in violation of the regulations as they exist today.
Any questions from the commission? No. Charlie?
No.
No questions?
Can I respond?
Yes, you can. I was just going to ask you that.
Excuse me?
I was just going to let you do that after they said no, so.
I appreciate what Rick is saying, but I don't see where he's saying anything different than I'm saying. A recreational vehicle can be a camper type that's pulled as a trailer, or it can be a motorhome, as that statute says, and even the Connecticut statute says. This is neither. This is a car trailer. It's an enclosed trailer. It has no camping capability. And has anybody read the, I need to find it again. Trying to figure out, oh, here it is, okay. Page 19, definition number 95, recreational vehicle, a portable vehicle built on a chassis which can be towed, hauled, or driven, and primarily designed to use as temporary living accommodations for travel, camping, and recreational purposes. That's the definition of a recreational vehicle in your own rules, and I think that agrees with the definition he said in Connecticut. I don't see any difference. So I only have one recreational vehicle. The other one is a car trailer. It can't begin to support any living accommodation. And this even says primarily designed. It sounds like you could possibly do it as a secondary thing, but you can't, but it doesn't even do that. It doesn't do any living accommodation whatsoever. So I wanted to make that point, and I just wanted to reemphasize that I think the wording in the zoning rules, the only time it doesn't use it and call it a building is when it's referring to this line, the front property line to the front of the residence. That's what it says. It says to the front of the residence, not to the front of the building, like all the other yards and the setbacks talks about. So I think what it's trying to do is indicate that the only one that should be accommodating that is that. The garage side is a building. It's not the front line, front wall of the residence, front wall, I'm sorry. take those lines out wall. So the front wall of the residence, in my opinion, is not facing the other side. I totally understand why they want other things for it to be considered a front yard, seeing there's a road going next to it, but I don't see where this motorhome impacts that whatsoever.
Question to Rick. Rick, if that trailer, the car trailer, had a commercial plate on it or any other type of registration class, we're still on the same issue.
Right, if it was a commercial vehicle, you'd be in the same situation. Commercial vehicles can't be parked in the front yard, front of the house, in the frontage of the house. And this is a corner lot, and it has two fronts. You can't, there's no way of getting around that. It has a front on Shaker Road, and it has a front on Gainey Terrace. These are the issues with corner lots. We run into it all the time. Before this board, people want to come in for a variance, and we go through the same situation where what is the, for instance, the furthest corner that a structure can be put, and it's the furthest one away from, or it's the furthest one in the rear yard towards a corner. I mean, it happens all the time, and we always have issues with corner lots, but that's the, there's a lot of corner lots, and each one is a little bit different. And for this property, too, it is a non-conforming lot in that it's less than 33,000 square feet. And going back to the regulations back in 1971, when it was built, or even back in 78, there were different lot sizes then. It was R17. There were various different lots. So when they changed it, a lot of the properties then became non-conforming under the R33, R44, and R88 regulations that now exist, and now what we live by when we deal with these issues.
Any questions from the commission?
So Mr. Chairman, just looking at 330.9, a recreational vehicle or trailer, right? Very clear there. It's recreational vehicle and/or trailer, right?
It's recreational vehicle or recreational trailer.
It doesn't say that in this. It
Well,
just-
that's the way the definition is done, so that you'll understand the difference of that.
I'm simply,
Then they start, let me get on the same page with you. Which one?
this is on page 26 of 144,
Yes.
3.30.9, recreational vehicles and recreational trailers. It
That's-
says a recreational vehicle or trailer may be stored, right? I think the bigger issue here is, and we don't define these, we can only decide based on what our current regulations say.
And the state statute.
And the state statute.
Definition
Yes,
of
but that's
motor
right.
vehicle.
When you write procedures, you have a subject, and then you go into sub-subjects and sub-subjects.
Understood.
The only subject in here is recreational vehicles and recreational trailers. It's not talking about other trailers. That's
So
the
we
subject.
have two categories, sir. It's recreational or commercial.
Right.
Those are the two categories we have. If it's not commercial, then it's recreational, and it's a trailer. So by definition, it would be a recreational trailer under this statute, in my,
You're
My view.
Under the,
That's
under
what
the
it says. It's
Connecticut
got a,
general statutes, it would be considered a recreational vehicle.
right.
That's how it's assessed, that's how
Right.
the assessing law works, that's how the motor vehicle law is written.
And I understand that your lot is a corner lot and has its own peculiarities, and the CEO mentioned that there's always an option for a variance request. In this scenario, we're looking at the fact that it's in front of the front line of your house.
Yeah, the front one, I totally agree. I'm going to pull it back. The main front line of the front wall of the residence of the house, I totally agree. Get it back there.
And that's what this, my understanding is, the violation is that it's exceeding the front line of the house.
Well, that's one of them. And I'm telling him I can fix that. Once I get the trailer off the back end of it, just drive it back and it's fixed. The problem is, he's going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, what he's telling you is, now I'm not meeting the requirement on the other side, because it's a front yard too, is what he's saying.
Understood.
Okay, and that's the problem. And I'm saying I'm 41 feet back instead of 35 feet back. He's saying, although I don't know where it says that it's not anything to do with setback. It's because it's a RV for some reason. And I'm saying, I don't understand why
Based-
that's an
I-
issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's because it's a corner lot and there's technically two fronts to this corner lot.
Right.
Right.
And that's the scenario here. And there is a workaround for that he could address through a variance request to be considered.
That's correct.
But in this scenario, he's stuck because you have two fronts to your building, to your residence.
I understand.
I have that right?
You
Mr. Commissioner?
you have that correct. Or, I mean, and there's, you know, a variance would be an option to pursue. It's not to say that there's not solutions to this or that it's not self-imposed.
Right. So that, again,
I mean, if I get shot down here, I'm amenable to going for a variance for that. What I'm really struggling with is anybody trying to call that car trailer, okay, a recreational vehicle, when your definition says a recreational vehicle has to be primarily designed for living accommodations. It's black and white right in there. And I don't understand it. I think I can own a third utility trailer and bring leaves to the dump, like almost every resident in the place has, along with their boat trailer and their motorcycle trailer.
I just fall on that 330.9. You have the vehicle in the front.
This is how you word things. When I learned English,
We don't draft the regulations, sir, so I mean, we're really not the board to, if you have an issue with how it's drafted, that, you could take that up with planning in their planning capacity.
well, let's take it the opposite way then. Why didn't this title say recreational vehicles and trailers? It didn't because it applies to recreational vehicles and trailers. And recreational trailers.
The only thing I could say to that, sir, is what I said. It's either commercial or recreational, and in this scenario, it's not commercial, so it has to be recreational, and the tag that's been applied to it would also represent that it's a recreational trailer.
Right.
I'm not saying you can live in it. I'm not saying it's appropriate for that. I would agree with you that it's not designed for that, but it is a trailer. It's meant to be pulled.
Why does the other definition exist and that says the opposite of what you're saying? Why does the town zoning regulations have something that says different than that?
Again, that's not a question for this board.
Okay.
So we can't help you with why things are written the way they're written. Our job is to interpret what's written there and determine whether you're right or the town's right in this case, and that's what we're here to hear testimony on today.
So-
But the Construction Planning Commission can, in their planning role, you certainly can address them on that.
Oh, okay, having to do with the number 3, how about number 2? How many recreational vehicles do I have in my yard? You're still saying I have 2.
You have a recreational vehicle in a recreational trailer,
Right.
as defined by the state. I would agree the trailer can't pull itself, but it's still connected to a vehicle, makes it a trailer.
Right.
It's not commercial, therefore it's recreational. Those are our only two options in the way it's defined.
And if it were commercial, it wouldn't change it. We'd still be in the same analysis, because then you'd have a commercial vehicle and a recreational vehicle.
So in the hypothetical case, which may not be, it's not looking good, there's no way to get a variance for my situation.
We can't advise you on that.
But if I got 2 of them, I mean, you can give me a variance to try and park one of them. I don't think you're ever going to give me a variance because of my unusual hardship, because you're saying nobody in Enfield can have two, because any trailer is considered recreational. Once you do that, you're screwed. If you got a motorcycle trailer and a leaf trailer, it's out of my. I guess the thing that bothers me most is people live in apartments when they don't do things, and they love art and things like that. The world has become a bunch of doers, and over time, it seems like the zoning laws are getting more stricter on what they're allowing people to do, and the only reason to hold in a house and all the stuff with it is to be able to accomplish some things and do some things. And it seems like we're getting into a postage stamp where we can't do anything. I've been doing this for 38 years, and I get nothing but compliments about my house and about how I keep the place and how the things I seem to be enjoying life with, and it just seems to be taking all that possibility out of being able to do that, and it's very unfortunate. But you got to do what your job is, so I understand.
But just to remind, the violation is because it's in the front yard.
Right.
Oh,
That's
I have
the-
no problem taking it
that's
off.
the violation.
Off
That's-
the real front yard. The side yard, nobody cares about the side yard. Nobody's told me what the health, safety, moral, or general, or what was the last one? General welfare attack is that's happening here. Because the zoning rule on the first page says you're supposed to try and interpret the intent of what we're trying to accomplish with all these rules. We're not trying to tie everybody's hands behind their backs, trying to let people enjoy their property, but not to impact other people, health, safety, moral, and all of the other things. And nobody's been able to give me one reason why this is a problem, other than that's the way the rule's written, and we don't know how to write rules, so you gotta live with it. As if, I'm trying to understand, but nobody's giving me an answer.
Well, Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm, we're here simply to
Yeah,
evaluate
we
is-
don't write the rules, but the planning commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and its role as a planning commission does write rules. And you can address them as to this issue and say, I don't think this is fair, and this is what I propose as an amendment. And that is your right to do that.
Well, or alternative
I'll be closed out
considerations
of my
or.
38 years worth of business of doing what I enjoy for a hobby by the time that gets fixed.
And we're not here to evaluate the regulations or the rules or anything. We're here to say, does the zoning enforcement officer have a valid cease and desist?
I totally understand why.
That's the only thing we're
why-
here to evaluate for you. And what you've put in record is understandable.
Right. And it may be things that you would bring up to us if you sought a variance. You may bring up these things to us, and that's a different, we can consider all that more in that case.
So item 120 doesn't come into the picture at all. It puts the responsibility on people interpreting the intent of the rules. I don't see that happening at all. Doesn't matter how it's written, it only matters how it's written. Not what the intent or the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish in this town. But
I think Rick had.
I have nothing else to
Couple
say.
a couple things. 1010-1 addresses multiple trailers and vehicles being located on a residential property. Right now, there's 4, when,
Well-
according to the regulations, minimum 3. How's that? So you have 2 boats and you have a motorhome. And then the second fact is, if you look at the photos of the aerial photos, you'll see that to address the issue of health and safety and welfare of the public, several times that vehicle intrudes on the sidewalk going in front of your yard. So depending on how far you park it back there, it protrudes into the sidewalk.
It could protrude, and I think one time for 12 hours when I was getting ready for a race, and we were having a hard time backing it up, and it was dark, and we already hit the gutter, I gave up, and it came down a little bit, but I always keep that thing 6 to 12 inches off the sidewalk.
You asked about safety, health, and welfare, and that's one of the issues when a vehicle is parked onto a sidewalk or crossing onto a sidewalk for the public.
And what's the first thing I said? Number 1, I agree, and I will correct that. I will get it all the way back to the front of the house. So that one's gone. Now, as far as the 2 boats, I bought the other boat, and it took me a little longer to sell this other boat, and that's the only problem I have with the other boat, and that will be gone soon. And the other one's going to go in the garage, so you won't have that. You'll be down to 2 vehicles again. But
And the good thing we're not here about your boat.
Yeah,
boats aren't on here, so
we're not here about that, so we're
that's
not.
what I thought, and I thought professionally that wouldn't happen,
Yeah.
but it's coming up. So I was a bit surprised it came up, so I felt, I'm not the one that brought it up. He brought it up, so I just had
Well,
to.
I don't want to issue another violation notice. I'd rather you take it up on your own and clear up the problem before we have to get to that point.
I will, and I've been trying to do it for a year and a half, unfortunately, but I will speed that up.
Okay. Nothing further from the commission? Is there anyone that wishes to address us from the audience today? I'm guessing not. Okay, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we are closed. Discussion?
I'll let someone else speak for now.
I see what he's saying.
I do see what he's saying, but the definitions are the definitions.
Right, and as I said, we don't draft regulations, and there are, you know, as Rick pointed out, there's safety concerns potentially about parking on a sidewalk. There's also concerns about fire access when you have this many vehicles in a yard, and that's all stuff that I know the commission would have considered when they enacted this. But at the end of the day, it's not our job to decide whether the regulation's a good regulation or not, or whether it should be changed or not. That's not what we're here for. We're here to decide whether to uphold this violation or not, and that's where we should lead discussion. But I mean, I think from all the photos, it's clear the violation's there. So.
Right. Especially with the aerial photos, like, where do you get these aerial photos from?
You can't ask him. We're off.
All right, we're done. Sorry. But the aerial photos are.
They are GIS
Yeah.
photos
Right.
of some kind. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what particular.
software.
It looks like Google Earth to
Yeah.
me, maybe. But there are multiple different software providers that I use, so I would assume they
Right.
also do. Do we have a motion on this?
Can we read the motion?
Yep.
For ZBA 2024-12-20 to uphold, to,
Make it in the affirmative.
but it would be for the appeal,
Correct.
right? To
To
uphold
uphold
the
them.
appeal of the ZEO notice violation of sections 3.30, 0.9, 4.20, and 10.10.1 for Douglas Valley applicant owner, map 64, lot 58, R33 zone. So a yes vote will uphold Mr. Valley's appeal, a no vote will uphold the CEO's cease and desist. My voting sheet here. Let the record, I'll have it right in front of me. Let the record
Okay.
show I miss Marion Turner being here to do this.
Yes.
All right. Andrew or Byrne?
Well, do we have it? We need a second
Oh,
on
need a
it.
second,
Do we have a
sorry.
second?
Second.
Okay. Andrew Urbanowitz.
So I will say no.
Charles Masterbirdy.
No.
Richard Storni, no. Christine DeBonnet.
No.
Sorry.
Butchering
Dana
it.
Palmer.
No.
That's 5 against, none for the,
Cease and desist is upheld. Yep. That's it for that.
and reason for,
Photographic evidence proved ZEO's order.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm good there.
We usually sign that,
Oh, that's right.
even though he put checks, sign
Signed by the
over it.
check.
Just gonna initial.
There you go. Just make a mark.
The record show again, we missed
We missed Marion Turner.
our
Yeah.
official commission secretary.
Charlie, just whatever, do something, put something over that check, sign it, print your initials, whatever, give me something. Make a mark. A mark of your own, good enough. You can make a mark of your own. So we're moving on to approval of minutes. So we have the December 16th minutes, which was our last meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the meetings of the regular meeting, December 16, 2024.
I second.
Do we have any discussion, any corrections? No? As is, whereas? Sounds good to me. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Okay. So the motion passes, minutes are approved. Do we have any other business, Rick, or have we covered the world tonight? Okay. And there's the town attorney report, I'm assuming, is what's in our packets, and everybody can take notice of that. And the executive session's already been accomplished, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Hold on one second, just to confirm from our meeting minutes last time, they did change our December meeting to December 15th, 2025. So that has been changed based
Yep.
on what we discussed last time. So
Okay.
that is all set.
Now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Want me to pass me your envelope?